Let's be honest, talking about lighting can be an instant boner killer. Let me paint you a scene. Your significant other says, I want you to talk filmmaker to me. You say, okay, well, first I'm gonna get out my Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K because I just know you need that full frame. She says, that open gate might just open my gates. What else? Then I'm gonna get out my vintage Leica lens set, hit you with that 50mm prime fixed focal length because no zoom could ever truly handle your beauty. She says she's ready for a close-up. I say the only thing that's gonna be soft is that highlight roll-off. She says, ooh, I want more. I say, that 3D rendering ain't the only thing about to pop. You're gonna see bokeh so creamy, you're gonna start calling it bouquet. She says, maybe she'll even let me shoot raw. But before I go in raw, first I'm gonna get out my Amaran 200X because it's bi-color so it can go day or night. She says, wait, what? I say, we'll need a honeycomb grid to avoid light spill because you don't want light spill all over the walls. She says, ew, that's gross. I say, you're taking it the wrong way. We need something behind you as well, a nice rim light. She says, that's disgusting. I say, no, wait, I didn't mean it like that. A classic 3-point lighting setup. She says, I'm leaving. You've completely killed the buzz. And before you know it, your wife has left you, uttering the final words, everything we ever had was a lie. And to that I say,
well, excuse me for having enormous flaws that I don't work on!
Will my YouTube ad revenue cover divorce proceedings by making this video? Doesn't look like it. If you want to see exactly how we lit that scene, stick around until the end of the video. And purchase links to all the lights I use will also be in the description. So I'm going to talk about some simple lighting basics along with some good lighting equipment that'll help you get a nice image in almost any situation. First, let's talk a little bit about lighting basics. As a general rule, I try and employ the 3-point lighting principles in most of my setups. So generally, that's 3 points of light, so we need 3 lights. The first light is your key light, placed closest to your subject at about a 45 degrees from your subject, and this is your most powerful light. Then we have our fill light placed slightly further away on the other side of your subject at about the same angle. Your fill light, now this is filling in the other side of your subject, but it's not as powerful as your key light. It may be about 50% as powerful, but really it's a matter of taste. If your fill is too powerful, your subject will look flat and overlit. If your fill light is too dark, there might be too much shadow and contrast on the fill side of the face. Then our third light is our backlight or hair light or rim light. Now this light is looking to create a subtle halo around your subject and also to separate your subject from the background. It will be generally a smaller light, sometimes a spotlight, which is less powerful but can be concentrated in one spot with more accuracy, hence spotlight. It's not enough that you just point 3 lights at your subject. It's important that your lights are not too harsh or overexposed. They need to be diffused. So if having your 3 light sources is part 1 of the lighting setup, then having good diffusion on those lights is part 2. Lighting through diffusion creates soft light. Soft light looks pleasing on subjects and allows faces to appear even and minimizes things like wrinkles and blemishes. It doesn't remove these things, but it softens them in a pleasing way. Watch any Marvel movie of recent years to see what soft lighting does for faces. Now, there are many elaborate ways to diffuse light, but we're gonna just keep it super simple and only talk about softboxes. These go on the front of your light, normally attached via a Bowen's mount, and diffuses the light to make it, yes, soft. These honeycomb grids can be added on them to help focus the light and avoid light spill, where light spills into other unintended areas of your scene. Small softboxes are portable, easy to set up in small spaces, but diffuse your lights less effectively. Large softboxes create a softer light, but are harder to set up and find room for. Broadly speaking, the bigger a softbox, the softer the light. The softer the light, the nicer it looks. If you don't have a softbox, you can try other methods of diffusion, such as utilizing bleached muslin material, frosted shower curtains, or bouncing your light off something like a reflector, which is a very affordable purchase. Now, you don't have to always have 3 lights to employ 3-point lighting, as it's possible other light sources can provide one of these 3 lights. For example, the sun in the right position can provide your hair light or backlight, and a reflective bounce board bouncing that sunlight back at your subject could be used as your fill light or key light. But if you simply apply the 3-point lighting principle to your scenes, 3 light sources, key, fill, and backlight, with diffusion, it's the simplest, easiest, and quickest way to get a good result. Even if you don't have 3 lights, apply the 3-point lighting principle. If you only have 1 light, then use it as your key light. 2 lights will be a key and a backlight. Sometimes you won't need all 3. Just prioritize each light in that order: key light, backlight, fill light. Now, let's look at my YouTube studio setup. This is my key light only. Now, this is the backlight. Now, the fill light. If this was all I had, that's fine. But I also have another light filling out my background, some accent lights for my camera and plant, and finally a light with a projector creating this shape on my wall. Now, let's talk about the specific lights I use. First, you need what I call your big bash light. Your bash light is your brightest light. You can use it as your key light, but you also want it as a light that has the ability to compete with the sun or open windows and light big open spaces, or to replace the sun in your scene as your own controllable sunlight source. Your bash light doesn't always have to act as your key light, but as your most powerful light, it's a good candidate to act as that key. Ideally, this would be something like a 600 watt light. The brighter your bash light, the more situations you can utilize it. But for a lot of people, those lights are just a bit too expensive. Now, my key light is an old Aperture 300D attached to an Aperture Light Dome softbox 2. But I'll be honest, I think that this light is well past its use by date. And while it should be a very powerful light, my Godox UR 150, which should be half as bright, actually seems brighter. The aperture also seems to skew more yellow, as if the LED chips are suffering from some type of YouTuber burnout. Trust me, buddy, I know the feeling.
It's been 84 years.
Fortunately, Suncrafter have provided me this S200B Pro to use. It's a bicolor LED, which is a 200 watt light, which can be boosted to a very powerful 310 watt output. It's a great bash light. What's unique about the Suncrafter range is that it promises exceptionally color accurate lights, with this model having a TLCI of 99 and a CRI of 98. The more color accurate the light, the easier it is to dial it in with your camera's white balance. This is how you get the best quality skin tones from your lights. So I love the fact that this is what Suncrafter prioritized with their set of lights. The light doesn't have a separate control box, it's just one cable that plugs directly to a power point. You can control the light from its manual controls on the back of it, or with a downloadable app which offers additional effects. The light also has this max boost mode to temporarily increase the power of the light up to that 310 watt output. It comes with its own reflector dish, but doesn't have a carry case. For comparison, this is my Aperture 300D at 56%, and this is the Suncrafter at 30%. Overall, I'm super happy with the Suncrafter. It's both smaller, more powerful, and much quieter than my old 300D, while delivering a much better quality output. Links in the description. For my fill light, I'm actually using a Falcon Eyes 18T. Now, generally, I actually just have this hanging from the roof rather than placed in the traditional fill light position, as I also use it as a backlight for some of my podcast filming in the studio. Now, my actual backlight or rim light is the Aperture Mini 20. However, these have been discontinued, and now I would recommend the much more powerful and versatile Aperture LS60D or 60X to be your all-in-one backlight. It's compact, it's powerful, it comes with barn doors, and the ability to adjust the size of the spotlight that it projects. For my orange accent light, I am using a first generation Pavo tube light from Nanlite. Now, to be clear, I don't recommend this as a tube light. The newer versions are much brighter and better with app control, and this one is severely limited, but because it only sits in my studio behind a plant, I don't mind. For the light with the projector lens attachment, I'm using the Amaran 300C RGB light with the Amaran SE spotlight attached to its front. That's what's creating this lighting slash on the back wall. This is created with a gobo insert through the spotlight projector attachment. But that's only my studio setup, which has taken me a long time to develop, and I'm constantly experimenting and tweaking the lights. I have space to set up what I want to set up. But when you're on location filming, the same rules don't apply, whether it's small spaces or a lack of time or both. The portable lighting kit you need is going to be a little bit different. For more portable lighting situations, my key light or main light for on-location filming is the Godox FL150S flat panel. Now, this is by far my favorite light and basically goes everywhere with me. If I could only have one light, it would be this one. In a lot of ways, I much prefer this to your standard Bowens mount LED because it takes up so much less room in a shooting space and it packs down small. The days of bringing an Aperture 120D in a massive softbox are over. This is the best type of portable solution to act as a key light, and you can also power this with a V-mount if you don't want to worry about cabling on site. Now, if you want something slightly more powerful and higher quality, then the Amaran F21X and F22C are flat panel lights that are the next step up, and these are what we use throughout our recent documentary along with an LS60X. So for my fill light, I normally bring my Amaran 200X. Again, it's small, it's powerful, it's bicolor. You can use it as a key, fill, or backlight, and it's relatively affordable. Rather than take one of the larger softboxes, I use the Aperture Light Dome Mini with this setup. For my backlight, the Aperture LS60D is what I use. Now, if all you wanted to do is simple 3-point lighting, then just those 3 lights for a remote shoot should be enough. If you're looking to increase the versatility of your mobile lighting setup, I would recommend at least one tube light. I use the Godox TL120. Tube lights are great because of their size and the fact that they are RGB. Sometimes you can just place one out of frame to be an emergency key light, or you can pop them in the background as an accent light. Either way, they are very useful as they can perform so many different functions, and their shape means they can fit in a lot of interesting places to help your lighting. Now, my new Amaran 300C and projector lens is one of my favorite recent additions to my lighting setup for a lot of the work I do. This normally just stays in my bag, but if you are working on an interview setup and want to create something a bit more interesting on a generic blank wall behind your talent, then this can really work wonders for making something bland seem a lot more interesting. If you shoot a lot of interviews, this light with the projector will really come in handy. Now, let's look at this lighting setup at my computer where we're applying the same 3-point lighting principles. To my right side is my key light, the Aperture 60D. In this case, I'm using the smallest light possible because there's no real space to mount it in the corner of the room. And I'm actually using the diffuser to bounce the light back onto me using an umbrella softbox to help soften the light. Behind me, fixed above my gear closet, is the Godox TL120 tube light. This is my rim light or hair light. Now for my fill light, I am using the Suncrafter S200B Pro again, and it's actually placed more behind me, but is just giving me a little bit of extra texture to my face while also lighting up my background. And I'm utilizing its bicolor nature, so I've dropped its temperature to 2700K to give more of an orange warmth to that side of the room. Then we have the Godox SC60 and the S30 spotlight attachment for it, with a gobo creating this Venetian blind effect on the poster behind me. I prefer the Amaran 300 Caesar spotlight because it's bicolor / RGB. However, the SC60 is much cheaper and a fair bit smaller, so if you want to start playing with these gobo effects, it can be a great entry point. And the final touch, the accent lights. Now these are all practical except for a little Godox TL30 tube light, just adding a bit of color to the window behind me. Finally, let's look at our opening lighting setup. Now this is where we're taking things to the nth degree, as this time we are introducing colored lighting to evoke a certain mood or feel. This mixed lighting style can be tricky to get right, and to add this layer of complexity, Isaac Newcomb, my resident DOP, is creating this setup for us. Now, when you start your lighting journey, sticking to daylight balanced lights is normally going to give you a clean, neutral look that's much easier to replicate. Once you start introducing color to your lighting setups, you're getting into a much more advanced skill level. However, we are still utilizing the same general 3-point lighting principles. We have the Aperture Nova 300C as our bash light and backlight, creating moonlight out the window. We have the Amaran F22X as our key light to my right side. We have another one as a fill light, and we also have an Amaran F21C boomed just above me as a second backlight, which is acting more as my hair light or rim light. We also have an Aperture MC placed in the lamp behind me as our practical light, which helps motivate how the other lights are hitting me. Now, last but not least, we're adding a healthy amount of haze with the Smoke Ninja, a handy portable hazer that can quickly fill up a room with a light layer of haze, which gives volume and depth to your lighting, especially when you're backlit. So to recap, if you're starting out on your lighting journey, keep it simple. Remember the 3-point lighting setup. Start with a key light, a solid flat panel like the Godox FL150S. It'll do a great job in most situations. It has a small footprint and is relatively quick to set up. For your fill light, I'd recommend simply purchasing a reflector. You can use it to bounce your key light, diffuse your key light, diffuse other light sources, and really harness the power of the sun.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
It's the most versatile and affordable piece of lighting gear you could ever buy. Your second actual light should be whatever you're going to use as a backlight. I would recommend some of the more affordable S200 series from Suncrafter or the Amaran 200XS. If that's too expensive, then make it the Amaran 60X. You should also buy a small softbox for this second light to make it the most flexible. I recommend the Aperture Light Dome Mini 3. For a third light, I'd get the Aperture Lightstorm 60D or 60X. This can become your dedicated backlight / hair light, and you can then use the 200X as your fill or to help light larger spaces. As you continue to grow your lighting kit, that's when you can look at things like big bash lights, accent lights, spotlights, light tubes, gobos, and bigger modifiers and diffusers. But just remember that even with 1 or 2 lights and a little bit of diffusion and sticking to the simple basics can take you a long way, providing a pleasing and professional look in most scenarios. And that's my lighting kit, along with some of the basic lighting principles I use to get consistent quality lighting setups for narrative, corporate, and documentary work. Links to all of the items mentioned are in the description. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you want to see a breakdown of the documentary where I use this lighting setup extensively, click the link beside me. As always, I am the Savage Filmmaker, and I'll see you when I see you.